Hello everyone, and welcome back to Semi-Controlcast. Today I'm going to be doing something slightly different and making a discussion slash theory video on the return of the Scotsman in Season 5 of Samurai Jack. I'm going to be focusing mainly on theories on his future role in the season and some things that I believe that need to be more elaborated on in the show that they never really have, and I would like to see them expand on it. So let's get into it. Spoilers for if you have not seen the newest episode of Samurai Jack. Okay, so I'm going to go over a brief recap of the first part of the episode. And I'm going to get more into the discussion slash theory side of it. So it's been 50 years in the Samurai Jack universe, and the Scotsman has obviously aged. He has a Gatling gun instead of the machine gun he used to have for a leg. He's in a wheelchair now, and they have introduced the Scotsman's children. So he has enough daughters to where he basically has his own army of just children. And they are all in search of Aku's castle. So in the episode, the Scotsman and his daughters, and I can't tell if it's one or two other armies besides his, find Aku's castle or his Fortress of Solitude. I don't know what it is. It's not at the Aku city, which is where I always assumed he hung out, so I don't know if he's hiding from Jack or whatever he's doing there in this particular location. But they start attacking Aku's castle, and Aku decides, hey, maybe if I kill all these people, it'll break me out of my slump. So the Scotsman orders his children to, run away and fight another day kind of thing. And he said he was going to sacrifice himself so as they could escape. So he starts distracting Aku, mocking him, basically just giving him shit. And Aku finally has enough and kills the Scotsman. So the Scotsman's daughters are very understandably upset that their father was just murdered in front of their eyes. So they're vowing to avenge him. And honestly, I had to watch this scene a couple times in a row just to wrap my head around the fact that they murdered the Scotsman within the first 5 minutes of him being reintroduced into the series. But as it turns out, he's still going to be hanging around in the episode as a ghost. And he explains that he's still able to be seen and heard by everyone else is because of the magic runes that were shown on his sword. Even in the first episode they introduced him. And I'm going to get a little bit more into that later because I have a couple ideas about these magic runes and why they might be more significant than other people I have heard and talked to anyway think. Okay, so this image is what got me thinking on the video, or the theory that I'm going to put out there now. The sword, the way it broke, could very easily be resharpened into a Tanto tip, and I don't believe it would damage the runes on the sword, so the Scotsman would still be able to hang around. And if you'll go back and look at a picture of Jack's sword in the original series, you can see how Jack's sword kind of looks like a Tanto tip katana. Now, it could just be a stylistic choice to draw at an angle like that than a rounded tip, but it still, I believe, is worth mentioning, because if they sharpen the Scotsman's sword into that fashion, it would be a very similar type of sword. And see, now that the sword is broken in half, someone like Jack, I believe, could use it, because they hinted that Jack or just any other regular person could not use a sword like they use it because, they're like 8 foot tall. So they have the strength to wield these, I don't know where I'm getting this information from, but I'm fairly sure they said that the sword was like 6 feet long at the blade. If I'm doing that in my head right, I think that the sword broke in half and it should be more manageable for anyone else. So I'm thinking that Jack could use the sword and the Scotsman could basically just help him discern his visions that he's having from reality. So say if the mysterious horseman were to show up again, the Scotsman could help Samurai Jack go, this is not real, it's in your head. You basically just snap him back to reality. In a sense, kind of being his Jiminy Cricket, just helping him stay grounded. However, there are a couple holes to this theory. I read the episode synopsis for the next couple episodes. The next episode is going to be focusing mainly on Ashi trying to track down Samurai Jack. In the episode after that, she's supposed to help Jack get his sword back. So, unless the daughters of the Scotsman manage to track down Jack and give him this sword, I doubt he'll be using it, if at all. Because I thought, okay, the way it's broken, they can sharpen it, like I said, and he can use it. And I thought he would use the Scotsman sword to get his sword back, because every weapon he's had so far in the series is either broken or he's lost it. So this would be like a sword he could use, and they've said that it's durable enough to stand up to his sword, that he could use the Scotsman sword to get his sword back, because I imagine he has to fight someone or something that's incredibly strong or skilled. So he would need a weapon that would hold up to the abuse. More likely than not, though, I imagine one of the daughters of the Scotsman is probably going to wind up using the sword, just maybe as like an offhand sword. Maybe actually kind of like Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars cartoon. How she had the longer lightsaber and then the shorter lightsaber is like a complementary weapon. Maybe something like that. But I had another idea. The Scotsman sword is a pretty iconic sword from the Samurai Jack series. And I thought, they're introducing a new character who does not really have their own identical or identifiable weapon. So, naturally I assumed that Ashi would probably be a nice fit for this sword. She's obviously been trained in multiple different fighting styles with multiple different weapons. So I imagine it'd be very easy for her to just basically pick up the Scotsman sword and start using it. And I thought that this might actually introduce an interesting dynamic, because as far as we know, Ashi never really had a fatherly figure in her life, I would guess you would call it. As far as I know, as far as we know so far in the series, that she has only ever been exposed to her mother and the other women in the cult of Aku, or I think the daughters of Aku, the cult anyway. So I thought maybe the Scotsman could kind of step in and maybe fill out that fatherly kind of role. And I think he would probably be very good at this because, obviously, as we've seen from the episode, his daughters, while a little irritated with him at times, appeared to just be devastated when he died. So, going off of that, I'm going to assume he was a pretty good parent and that they loved him dearly. So, I'm going to just further assume here that he would probably be a good fatherly figure / mentor to Ashi. He could basically just help her figure out who she is, help her on her path, offer her advice from time to time, that kind of thing. And I imagine there was going to be some personality clashes because she's more like Jack as far as personality. But the Scotsman, he seems to just win everyone over with the exception of Aku, obviously, who murdered him. But I imagine that once she warmed up to him, the Scotsman would be a very good father figure for Ashi. So now I want to talk a little bit more about why I'm disappointed that they've basically killed off the Scotsman as far as his physical ability. I always thought in the original run of the series that the Scotsman was going to be with Jack and the last fight, the big climactic battle. And I thought if the Scotsman was going to die, it was going to be that last fight. And that would drive Jack over the edge and that would be the final push for him to kill Aku. Because, watching his best friend die right in front of his eyes on top of everything else. Or maybe even the Scotsman could have helped Jack defeat the Guardian from the episode Samurai Jack and the Wandering Creatures. I believe that's the episode. If I'm wrong, feel free to quote or correct me in the comments down below, but I'm fairly sure that was the episode. I know that he said that only one man, I know he said that only one man was prophesied to beat him, but that didn't translate to me as only one person could challenge him at a time. So, yeah, Jack would still beat him, but the Scotsman would play a role in at least wearing him down, because the Scotsman had very obvious upper body strength, or just actually strength overall, come to think of it. And that's something that Jack just did not seem to have in the fight against this Guardian. The Guardian was obviously way above Jack in terms of just brute strength. And I thought that the Scotsman would be able to round that off, like, take some of the blows, or they can just start wearing him down. So, I don't know how to take this new state he's in, because now that he's in this state, there's a high chance we'll never get to see him do either of those. So, now I'm kind of curious as to what kind of role he will play in the series. I have three possibilities in my head. A, he'll be able to possess robots or maybe just other aliens or people and fight through their bodies. And probably come to think of it, just, every time he possesses someone, they just give him back his sword and he goes apeshit with it. My other theory is that maybe in this form he'll be able to do damage against people who use magic, example being Aku, wizards, whatever, because ghosts, I believe, are more attuned to magic and just the ebbs and flow of the universe, that kind of thing. So in this form, maybe he'll be able to damage Aku or slow him down or something, because they've stated that no mortal weapon could damage Aku. Well, the Scotsman technically isn't mortal anymore. You stop being mortal when you die. And actually, going off of that theory, they might actually be able to recruit the Viking from, I think it was Samurai Jack and the Lava Monster, come to think of it. Have the Scotsman and the Viking team up and attack Aku that way, if Ghost can hurt Aku. But if neither of those are a possibility, the only role I can see the Scotsman playing is either, like I said, to help Jack or Ashi, overcome their, mental issues, their visions and hallucinations. But other than that, I could just see him being just a supporting kind of character, in the background, rallying the troops and just kind of motivating everybody. So, I don't know exactly what to expect, but those were my theories so far on what I believe will come to pass in the further episodes. Quick side note before I end off this video, though. I think the rhinos things in this episode were actually a reference to the rhino from the show I used to watch when I was a little kid on Boomerang called Herculoids. I think it was a show from the 70s or 80s. The rhinos in that show would, or actually it was only a rhino, he would shoot rocks out of his nose or whatever, out of his horn, and they would explode. And these things do the exact same thing, so if it is a reference, I get it. But even if it's not, I think it's still pretty cool. Because actually the armor kind of makes it look like the rhino from that show too. But anyway guys, that was my theories and opinions on the future role of the Scotsman. And I would love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments down below. So comment away, let's get a discussion going. I would love to read it. So if you guys liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.